Boozy. It's more boozy than I remember. Soda water. Hi, lovely people. Welcome back to the channel. I thought about looking nicer for this video, and then I said, hey, these are the dog days of summer. They deserve the truth. I'm doing a chit chat and chai video today. If you do not know what that is, it is a series on this channel where we chit chat and drink chai. This is not chai, it is a spiced metheglin, which is a spiced mead. I made it myself. It's delicious, and it's made with chai spices, so I figured it counts. Today, I'm gonna shoot out real quick 5 things I don't think people who homestead or garden or raise animals or try to, be more self-sustainable should do. These are 5 things I wish I knew not to do, or I wish I didn't do in some way, shape, or form. Basically, I did these things and I shouldn't have, so please learn from me. Before we get too far down the rabbit hole of things I wish I didn't do when I started, or I wish I don't frequently do because I'm absent-minded and like to learn things the hard way, I do want to say that homesteading is hella rewarding. I won't get into the plethora of reasons why I choose to live the sort of lifestyle I do live, but there are many, and that's actually one of the ways I've managed to keep going over the last few years, especially during the hot months of July, when you're out there for 3 hours in the morning, and then you're hiding from the sun, and then you're back out there in the evening. It's hard to stay motivated, and having multiple whys is a great way to do that, especially when it comes to something that involves so much physical labor like homesteading. It is work. You're gonna need a lot of motivation to keep doing it, especially when you really don't want to do it. So let's not pretend that there's these people out here on the internet who always have an abundance of motivation to get their homesteading chores done. That's not true. Like, they're still chores. Even though it's rewarding and chickens look cute and we have pretty flowers in the garden, doesn't mean you always want to do it. That's just real talk. That's just the way it actually is. Number 1, the thing I wish I really grasped and fully understood. Excitement can be one hell of a drug, and it's very easy to take on way too much, way too soon. So that's my first one. Don't take on too much too fast. Like I might have mentioned 30 times in this video already, homesteading takes a lot of work and dedication, and when you are spread too thin, you're bound to miss something, and that's where quality of life and quality of the things you're responsible for plummet. It's important to start small, get a good strong foundation, and grow. You'll see people all over the internet telling you this because it's true, and because the mistakes you learn through that process can be really costly, painful, and are mostly avoidable if you just slow down. Number 2, this is for the people who grow veggies. Don't neglect your soil. Your garden is literally like nothing without your soil. Don't so much focus on plants, don't focus on varieties, get your dirt work organized. What does your soil need? What kind of soil do you have? Even figure out how the animals and the livestock that you have on your homestead, or that you might want to have on your homestead, can help your soil. Soil is the most important thing. If you can, take a soil course. My mom took a soil advocacy course, and she's taught me so much from that course. I'll see if I can get her to give me the links and the information, and I'll put it down in the description for you to check it out if you want. Also, if you want to learn more about soil or stay in contact with us, maybe hear from my mom in a chit chat and chai coming up about how we care for our soil and our soil priorities, hit the subscribe button and let me know in the comments below. I'll be sure to sit her down and ask her the questions that we all need the answers to. Number 3, do not skimp on animal care. Now I know that sounds really obvious, like, of course, Melanie, I would never want to neglect an animal. Blah, blah, blah. I get it. But what ends up happening is if you do the number 1 thing, where you take on too much at once, the ball gets dropped, unfortunately. And there's a big component of this that I don't think people always consider, and that's infrastructure. You want to make sure that you are set up for success so that you can properly care for the animals you have on your homestead. As soon as you bring animals onto your homestead, you are now responsible for another thing's life, which is very, very important. You're going to want to make sure that you do not skimp on the shelter, the food you're providing, even feeding schedules. That's very important. How they're getting water, shade, adequate entertainment, and their mental stimulation, all of that jazz needs to be a big consideration for you when you're planning out your homestead or your endeavors on your hobby farm or what you're doing in your backyard. Don't neglect that. Number 4, unless if you are like me who lives in the middle of nowhere, you're going to have local regulations that you will need to consider when you're planning your stuff out. Just because you see people on the internet or Instagram, Facebook, whatever, or even your friends and family doing something does not necessarily mean it's okay for you to do it where you are. There are usually ways to work around regulations if they're limiting you in the endeavors that you want to be pursuing, but it is important to know the regulations in order to know what you're problem solving for. So stay in touch with your local regulations, figure out what the general guidelines and rules are, and then start problem solving and seeing how your dreams fit in and amongst that. Number 5 is kind of more subtle and not something I think people might necessarily think of, but you gotta take care of yourself. Homesteading, gardening, animal husbandry is physically taxing. You need to make sure that your body and your mind is in tip-top shape, or at least in good enough shape that you can keep up with the things that you've started. Number 1 and number 5 really relate to each other. You do not want to take on too much and then therefore neglect yourself and not be able to keep up with everything, and then it's just kind of a downward spiral. If you've never homesteaded before, if you've never gardened before, if you haven't done any of this stuff before, you gotta be like gentle on yourself, man. This is a lot of work, there's a lot of learning curves, and you might be super gung-ho right now, which I respect and I love and I'm on board for, but you gotta kind of like guard against yourself for yourself in the future. I'm speaking from personal experience. I get really excited with new hobbies, like mead making. Just started making sourdough. This kind of like invigorated, enthusiastic approach to homesteading, gardening, sustainable living is brilliant, and it's what's kind of enabled me to stay really passionate and involved in all of these things. But if I didn't know myself well enough to know that at some point I'm going to taper off when it comes to the motivation levels I have for certain hobbies or certain projects, I'd be in a really rough spot right now. Factoring in long breaks, figuring out who's going to help you on butcher days, labor in the garden. You need a community, you need friends, you need help. My mom, me, we're not enough for this place all the time. There's been times, especially this year, it's my 4th year where I've been on the property. I'm now in the off-grid cottage. We've got the gardens going. This is my 4th year here where we've been homesteading very intentionally, and I've had to call in more help this year than I ever have before. That all factors into number 5, which is take care of yourself. Know how much you can handle, and if you don't know, take it slow, man, for your own safety, physically and especially mentally. It's draining, it's hard. You're usually living somewhere remote and rural, and you maybe don't have the support or the community that you might need or want. So go slow. I know that it's kind of fluffy and people talk about, ooh, self-love in kind of a very, I don't know, maybe an overdone way on the internet, but it is important to know what you can and what you can't do, especially physically, when you're entering into a lifestyle that requires physical performance. I have to move a 5-gallon bucket every morning full of fermented chicken feed. If I can't do that, then I can't ferment my chicken feed. Know thyself, which is a pivotal part in any endeavor in your life, but especially when you're starting a project like this. Those are just 5 things I wish I knew. I just wish and maybe I did know them on some level, like, you know you should take care of yourself. You know you shouldn't take on more than you can handle at one time, you know that, but you don't know it. And if you're someone who learns lessons the hard way, well then, pre-warning, these are some of the ones you might have to learn when you're starting gardening or homesteading or taking care of animals for yourself. It is a fun journey. It is a worthy endeavor. It is something that I am passionate about, and I would not choose to live any other life. But it is not an Instagram reel, man. It is not super easy. I do not look good all of the time, and I do not have my hair done and my makeup done. I'm usually sweaty. I'm usually gross. I usually don't want to be doing the chores that I'm doing, but I know my why. I have multiple whys to keep me going, but I know them, I'm anchored in them, and that's probably my number 6 bonus suggestion for you, would be to get really clear on why you're doing what you're doing, why you're making the choices you are, and why you're maybe heading towards a homesteading lifestyle or a self-sustainable lifestyle, or even if you're just starting to grow some garden goods for yourself. Get clear on your why and really hang on to that why when you're ready to quit, because that's the only way you're going to keep going. I hope that this list of 5 things that I would recommend avoiding helps you in some way, shape, or form. And let me know what you wish you knew, or whatever you wish you didn't do. I will gladly learn from your mistakes. Put it in the comments. Of course, I will be back here very shortly with another video for you. As always, may the force be with you. Bye-bye for now.